What does the future hold for Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego? That is the topic of today's video. So first, we're going to start with Ultra Instinct. As we all know, Goku has essentially achieved a Saiyan variant of Ultra Instinct, and this has major implications in terms of how Goku is going to implement Ultra Instinct in the future of the series. So with this video, I'd like to just take a second to step back and really analyze Ultra Ego and Ultra Instinct and the hints that have been given to us in terms of the future of each technique and how they'll be implemented into the series going forward. The first thing I'd like to draw attention to is the events with Bardock that helped Goku realize exactly what he needed to do in his version of Ultra Instinct. After Gas poses the question as to whether or not Bardock has lost the will to fight, Bardock expresses that nothing gets his blood pumping like a powerful foe. Now, this is a very, very important line, specifically in reference to Vegeta, but also Goku, and I'll get into how exactly this connects the two transformations, specifically in reference to Goku's version of Ultra Instinct here in just a few seconds. But I think it's very important that we analyze what happens here with Bardock as he sort of eases himself into this life and death battle with Gas. Bardock is losing pretty bad to Gas, specifically after Gas loses his nature, though. It seems like Bardock gets the upper hand against Gas, but why is it specifically that Bardock gets the upper hand? And this is a very overlooked aspect of the whole interaction between Bardock and Gas, because this is essentially explaining how Saiyans work and how they are a hyper-evolutionary species, and this is very important to take note of, especially in reference to Ultra Ego and Ultra Instinct, since both are adaptive and reactive techniques that cause Goku and Vegeta to evolve mid-battle. So this is a sort of pseudo version, a Saiyan variant of what Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego do for Goku and Vegeta. The techniques themselves actually accelerate this effect through Vegeta thinking of nothing but destruction and Goku basically allowing his body to do whatever it wants. This interaction between Gas and Bardock is specifically aimed at the issues that Goku and Vegeta had in Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego specifically, and we see this firsthand as Gas brings up the atonement of sins like Vegeta, and then he also brings up the rage that Goku is having an issue with in Ultra Instinct. He is not having an issue with either of these things because of the mindset that he has embraced. And he essentially explains that this mindset that Gas is so curious about is essentially when he is in a life and death battle, he thinks about nothing but survival. It's worded victory here, but with the life and death implications, that essentially equates to Bardock is thinking about nothing but surviving in a life or death situation. And that's very important because that essentially means that he is giving himself over to his survival instincts. Now, the reason this is so important is because, as Bardock says here, Saiyans have a way of growing and evolving every time they are pushed past their limits, essentially pushed to the point that their survival instincts kick in, which is essentially what Bardock means when he says that his Saiyan blood starts pumping whenever he's immersed in battle. The reason Saiyans evolve whenever they're in battle and their heart is racing is because that effect of their heart racing is what causes them to actually evolve. This is essentially their way of explaining that. And this is very important because it's going to explain exactly how Goku and Vegeta are going to evolve as Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego users in the future. So when Goku achieves his own version of Ultra Instinct, we get a couple of visual cues. One is Goku taking on the Buddhist pose that Grandpa Gohan instilled to him when it comes to fighting as a martial artist, which means essentially that he is calming his mind. And what's really cool about this is also a reference to whenever Krillin had to calm his mind in order to prevent blood from seeping out of his head because his heart was racing. Goku is maintaining a calm mind in terms of his anger. He's not angry. Like, his actions on a conscious level are not dominated by rage. But despite that, due to the fact that he has immersed himself in this fight or flight state that is his version of Ultra Instinct, body is constantly reacting as though it was in a life or death situation. And Bruce Lee actually talked about this in his book, Tao of Kung Fu. He essentially explains that letting your body move on its own was originally a Chinese concept, and the idea was that if you were a master martial artist and you imprinted your fighting style into your muscle memory, when you cleared your mind, you would just move the way that you're supposed to, and this was a defensive technique on the part of Chinese martial artists. But Bruce Lee's personal martial arts philosophy was that you allow your ego to do what it wants, your ego will fight for you. But essentially what's happening here is Goku is maintaining a calm mind while allowing his ego or his body to fight for him. And the ego in martial arts is also known as the monkey mind. Now, that's very important because as you can see in this fight with Gas, Goku is actually fighting like a wild ape in response to a lot of the attacks that Gas throws his way. He even screams a blast into his face, very reminiscent of a great ape, to which Vegeta is astounded that this is Goku's new fighting styles. A primitive fighting style that is ingrained into the biology of Saiyans when they go into a state of fight or flight is essentially him taking on and using the ancient primitive fighting style of his ancestors on a subconscious level, which is why this version of Ultra Instinct is really cool, because it's essentially Goku using the very essence of his species in terms of their prowess and as combatants to his advantage whenever he immerses himself into the state of fight or flight. Now, the reason it's so important to clarify here that Goku is maintaining a calm mind, he is no longer having an issue with anger or unnecessary emotions preventing his body from reacting on its own. He's essentially alleviated that issue. That means in Goku's mind, he is tranquil, but in his heart is going crazy. And so his body is automatically, his ego, his monkey mind, it's automatically responding in combat for him. Now we come to Vegeta and Vegeta's Ultra Ego. Now, if you'll remember, I said earlier that Bardock's words about his Saiyan blood pumping also are relevant in terms of Vegeta. And the reason for that is that whenever Vegeta goes into Ultra Ego, he says the exact same thing. Now, the primary difference in terms of Goku and Vegeta's approach is that despite the fact that Goku and Vegeta both have their hearts pumping when they go into their new states of Ultra Ego and Ultra Instinct, only Vegeta allows his ego to completely consume his mind, whereas Goku is allowing it to consume his heart, which is why Vegeta is thinking about nothing but destruction, because one of the biggest functions of our ego is to destroy objects in our way that pose a threat to our survival. So, that means the ego has consumed Goku's heart while he has a calm mind, and in Ultra Ego, Vegeta's ego has consumed his mind, embracing his ego and controlling it with conscious thought. Vegeta has one huge issue in Ultra Ego, and that is the fact that despite the fact that he can take advantage of the effect that Goku takes advantage of, where he gets stronger when he gets hit, the difference is that Goku immediately strikes back as a result of using Ultra Instinct in combination with his ego or his fight or flight reflexes or his survival instincts. Now, Vegeta is using his survival instincts to make himself stronger through the fuel that he gains as a result of his battle soul burning, but he doesn't automatically respond whenever he is attacked. This is where Dragon Ball Super Superhero comes in. Now, in Dragon Ball Super Superhero, Vegeta brings up Jiren, and he brings up the observations he made in terms of how Jiren performed in combat. And if you remember, Jiren could actually keep up with Ultra Instinct Goku a bit due to the fact that he implemented these techniques and these things that Vegeta speaks of. Now, what specifically is Jiren implementing that allows him to fight on an instinctual level, as Vegeta explains in Dragon Ball Super Superhero? Well, much like how martial artists imprint their fighting style into their body, they are also capable of imprinting their fighting style into their mind. So when you see Jiren meditating, what he's actually doing there is he is imprinting his movements into his mind, so that way he can use them on command, sort of like just hitting a key or a button to do a combo in a video game. He can just fight at maximum efficiency and use moves that he's programmed into his mind at will through his consciousness. Now, this is something that Vegeta wants to implement into his Ultra Ego, which means that unlike Goku, who is mostly focused on imprinting his fighting style into his body, Vegeta is focused on imprinting his fighting style into his mind. And I actually have a hunch that Beerus has actually been practicing the exact same thing. I don't think Beerus has actually implemented Ultra Instinct into his body the same way Goku has. I do think that he has great muscle memory, but I think that his ability to use a Ultra Instinct-like technique is a result of the same thing that Vegeta is referencing here when he talks about Jiren. I think a lot of the time when we see Beerus meditating and we assume that he's being lazy, he is actually imprinting his movements into his mind. And we actually kind of see evidence of this in the episode where Goku and Vegeta have to change Beerus' sheets, and he is fighting them in his sleep. And if you remember, Toyotaro stated that Goku is heading in the direction of using Ultra Instinct in his sleep. So there are hints that this is likely how Beerus is capable of implementing Ultra Instinct-like movements, despite the fact that he is always in a state of Ultra Ego. Now, what specifically does this mean for Vegeta and Goku in terms of their fighting style and the future of Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego? Well, this means that Vegeta is going to appear as an ape, as he does in Ultra Ego, but he's going to fight as an efficient warrior in terms of his combat style, which is really interesting because Goku, who is a earthling martial artist who is pure of heart, and he's never really been treated as what the Saiyans actually are due to the fact that he was raised on Earth. But Goku is actually heading in the direction of allowing his body to fight for him as a Saiyan, which will make his movements more ape-like and animal-like in comparison to Vegeta. So it's sort of a weird role reversal thing and a play on Goku and Vegeta's effect on each other as characters. So essentially what I'm saying is the future of Goku and Vegeta's characters in terms of their techniques is likely going to be a reflection of the effect that each character has on each other and also the balance they must strike in order to keep up with each other. Essentially, what we're going to see from Goku in the future is he's going to immerse himself in the battle, and he's eventually going to be pushed to his limits, and he's going to implement more than likely the avatar-like state we see from Goku in the Moro arc. Whenever things get too crazy and he's in a life and death situation, he'll more than likely use that pretty often, and he will just use his variant of Ultra Instinct to break his limits and essentially bring himself to that point to where he can use that technique due to the fact that he has to be pushed to his absolute limit to use it. Now, this is where we're going to head into theory territory a little bit, but I actually think that there is something similar coming for Vegeta, and I actually crafted this concept myself. But essentially, the idea is that eventually Vegeta will build up so much fuel for his battle soul, as he calls it, that he will eventually, through sheer consciousness and sheer will, generate a avatar-like state, much like Goku, in the form of a great ape. This is a concept I came up with years ago, and I would really like to see it implemented in Dragon Ball. So I think it's actually very likely, as it does parallel Goku's Ultra Instinct avatar state, and I just think it's very likely that they will give Vegeta something to match Goku in that sense. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.